We're gonna start mobilizing, getting everything moving, and then we're going to do some focused strengthening through the upper body. So coming onto your hands and knees, hands under your shoulders, knees under your hips, and just shift your weight a little bit side to side, just trying to connect between the shoulder blades. As you shift side to side, feeling a little bit of that weight transfer into one arm and then the other. And then come back to the center of all of that. Round your back up towards the ceiling. Push your lower back up into the ceiling. Try to stretch the low spine out. And then lengthen from tail to head back out to one long line. Feel like you're drawing your shoulders down your back and sending your heart forward so you lift your sternum, lift your chest a little bit. And then again, rounding your back up towards the ceiling. Take a big stretch, cat stretch up in through the lower back, and then lengthen back out to one long line. And one more time, rounding your back up towards the ceiling, scooping through your lower spine, press the floor away, and then lengthen back out to one long line. Bring your legs all the way together. Take one of the weights to your forehead, push the floor away, rotate your upper body towards one side, and then square yourself back off. As you do this a couple times, just trying to feel that push down into the mat to rotate through the upper body. Pressing the floor away, square yourself off. Press the floor away, square it off. It's tempting to shift back really far to make it a little easier. Try to keep your weight over the standing arm. One more time. And then center back off, switch to the other arm. Weight in the hand, push the floor away, rotate, and rotate. Each time you square yourself back off, trying to keep from sinking down into the standing shoulder. So you're finding that feeling of the back of the rib cage pressing into the inside of the shoulder blade. One more time. Rotate, and then setting it back down. And then shift your weight a little bit forward and back with both hands down on the ground. As you shift back, you can round your back a little bit more. So round through the low spine and shift forward one more time, rounding and shifting back forward. Bend your elbows just enough to send your heart through so you go into a little bit of upper back extension, more than you were able to before, and then push the floor away, rounding the back into that cat back. And then again, open the sternum, lift the heart forward and up, bend the elbows, and then press the floor away and round your spine into your cat stretch. So you're trying to move mostly through the upper back into that extension versus sinking into your lower back. Good, one more time. The shoulder blades are the key to strong arms. So you can't really have strong arms if you're not aware of where your shoulder blades are and how they're attached, how they're connected, how they're working for you. And then you can come to laying on your back. We're going to have the weights in your hands. Reach your arms up towards the ceiling. Connect your abdominals, and you could keep your legs down, but most of you are going to want to lift your legs up to tabletop. And just do a little glide of the shoulder blades. So you're widening the shoulder blades away from each other and then drawing them back towards each other. Widen them away, draw them back in and towards each other. As you do this a couple more times, you're thinking of trying to feel that connection between the shoulder blades without the ribs popping up to the ceiling. And one more time, find that connection so you're not more open, you're not more closed, you're right in the middle of those two options, and go into arm scissors. So the arms go overhead and circle around towards your hips. Overhead and circle around. If you want to reach one leg out as you circle the arms, you can. Of course, you could be doing all of this with the legs down. Just depends on where you're at today. And one leg can reach out and everything comes back, and one leg reaches out and around. Keep the rib cage connection, keep your imprint. And we've got 2 more here. Circling the arms and around, and circling the arms and around. Either take a break, setting your feet down, or leave the legs up. Connect into the back of the shoulders and small circles of the arms, trying to not let everything wobble around. You're trying to connect to the back of the shoulder as you circle, circle. Good. Sorry, there's a fly near me. There we go. And circling. Keep connected into your imprint. Reverse the direction of the circles nice and strong. We're going to keep coming back to these little circles today, and I want you to feel like you're maintaining that connection into your shoulder. So it's not just your arm moving in the shoulder socket, but it's the connections around your shoulder blade you're trying to tap into as well. And then set one foot down, set the other leg down. Open your arms out to the side like a goalpost, like a cactus shape. Just stretch your arms open. And then keep your arms in this position and point your hands up towards the ceiling. And then slowly lower your arms back down. And point your hands up to the ceiling. And so we're just rotating the arm bone in this shoulder socket. The elbows stay in the same spot. And each time you lower the arms back down, it should feel like you get a little more open across the chest. Definitely does not feel hard per se with the light weights that we're using, but you're just trying to feel how can the arm bone rotate in the shoulder socket without moving the scapula around a lot. It has to stabilize on the back of the rib cage. One more time, and then you're going to leave your hands down on the floor. Let your arms stay down on the floor. Take your feet wider apart. You're going to drop your knees to one side. You can reach the opposite arm onto a high diagonal away from that knee. And then the other side, just going side to side like yawn quality. Big stretch through the side. Big stretch through the side of the ribs, feeling like you're getting your shoulder blade to move a little bit. Getting the pelvis and the hip a little more awake. And one more each way. Rotate and rotate. And then come back to the center. Bring your arms down by your sides. So keeping your arms down by the sides, you can choose to keep your head down or lift your head up. We're going to nod the chin and flex up. Keep your feet down for the moment. I want you to pump like hundreds, but each time alternate between the palms facing down and the palms facing up. So we have the 5 inhales, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to imprint. If you want to lift the legs up to tabletop and then come up, you can also extend the legs out and pumping 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale. Inhaling, keep sliding the ribs towards the hips, and exhale. If one of those directions of the palms feels better to you, you can keep it and keep maybe the palms facing up or the palms facing down. And we've got 3 more sets. Inhaling and exhaling. And inhale. Slide the ribs to the hips. Last set, inhaling and exhaling. And then keep the legs where they are. Lower your upper body down, reach your arms overhead, turn the palms to face up. They're kind of in a high V. And then do a toe tap of one leg going down, bring it back up. Reach the leg out, away from you. If that feels like it's too much, bring the arms overhead, directly up to the ceiling rather, instead of having the arms overhead. So the arms overhead is going to challenge your rib cage placement a little bit more. Trying to keep the ribs down and in. There's a moment where both legs are tabletop, so it's not just continuous tapping. That feels a lot easier. Lower one leg, lift it to tabletop. Lower the other leg, lift it to tabletop. one more each side. And then lower one leg down and then the other. Open your arms out to the side like a T and then press back up. So I want you to open slow, press up quicker. Open slow, press up quicker, also known as plyometric. Open slower, press up quicker. If you want to lift the legs to tabletop, continue. Open. If you want it to be even harder, reach the legs out on a diagonal. Yeah, open. Use your exhale as your arms come back up to the ceiling. If you have pretty light weights, put both weights in one hand, open one arm to the side, put both weights in the other hand, open the other arm to the side. If they're heavy, then, sorry, you're doing one arm at a time, but you can keep the weight, just a single weight in your hand. Open, press up. Should feel like you have to use your obliques a little bit more to keep everything from moving around on you as you're opening and closing the arms. Trying to not let the ribs shift side to side. Shouldn't feel like you're getting pulled or tipped towards one side as the arm opens. And 4 more. Open slower, press up quicker. Open slower, press up quicker. And then lower your legs down. Bring your arms down by your hips. Turn your palms to face up. We're gonna nod your chin, flex your upper body up like a ab prep with the arms hovering, hands at shoulder height, and bicep curl, lengthen the elbows, lower down, reach the arms overhead, circle the arms all the way around. As they come back to your hips, flex up and 2 bicep curls. Reach the arms long, lower the head, reach around. Of course, you can lift your legs up to tabletop if you want this to be harder. We're at 3 bicep curls. Lower your head down, reach the arms around, and flex up. 4, 2, try to keep the elbow at shoulder height. And reach overhead, circle around. And 5, 4, 3, and last one. And we're gonna do one more set to bring us to 6, and 6. And last one, reach the arms overhead, circle around, bring your hands back towards your hips. You can keep your legs down, bring the legs to tabletop. Hover the hands, the weights off the floor. Open your arms out to the side like a T, and then press back towards your hips. If you have shoulders that tend to kind of roll forward on you, turn your palms to face upward. If you want to flex your upper body up as you bring your hands towards your hips, lower your upper body down as you go out to the side. If you want the legs to reach out on the diagonal to add a little challenge, you're welcome to. Three more. If you've done any reformer work, this is like your mid-back series. And last one. Lower your head down, and if you need to lay your legs down for a second, that's fine. So then we're gonna open our arms to a V up towards the ceiling. So it's about 45 degrees, and then back to your hips. Open up to the ceiling and back to your hips. So it's not straight up and it's not straight side. It's somewhere in the middle of those two options. You can have the legs down, tabletop, extend it out. Open the arms, press back towards your hips. Open to 45-degree V, press back towards your hips. Again, if you want to add your upper body flexing up as the arms come towards the hips, go for it. Four more. And last one. Keep the legs up. If they're up, take the arms up to the ceiling. Circle your arms all the way around. Flex your upper body up as your hands come towards your hips. Lower your upper body down, circle the arms around. 4, 3, reach overhead. 2, and 1 more. Reverse it, and hands come towards the hips. You flex up, lower down and around. 2, and around. 3, and last one. 4, and back down. Set the weights down. Extend your legs up towards the ceiling. Just go into a normal scissors. So flex your upper body up. One leg towards you, one leg away. Little pulse, pulse, switch, pulse, pulse. Trying to lengthen through the upper body. If you need your head down, you just won't be able to take the leg quite as low on the diagonal. One more with each leg. And then bend your legs in and set your feet down. Roll over onto your stomach. Find your weights. Put one in each hand, legs parallel. This is a variation on breaststroke prep. So you can lower your forehead down towards your hands, holding the weights. You're gonna lift your upper body up, connect through the lower body, and then extend one arm straight out to the side. Bring it back to your forehead, lower down. Lift up the arm, the other arm goes out to the side. Bring it in, lower down. Lift up. It's asymmetrical, so it means you have to work a little bit to keep from shifting side to side. You're going for that low hover position. Both legs stay down on the floor the whole time. Both hip bones stay down on the floor. Pulling up on the abdominals. Lift, extend, bend, and in. Lift, extend, bend, lower, down. One more each way. Lift, extend, bend, and lower, back down. Then float your both arms up off of the floor. You can keep the weights or drop them, is fine with me. Reach your arms out to the side, turn your thumbs up towards the ceiling, and a little bit of a circular pulse up and around, circling, up and around, long through the spine, pulling up on the low abdominals. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring your hands to your forehead and lower back down. Good, so from here, we're gonna add a little bit more movement through the arm. So one arm and your forehead is gonna lift. Reach the arm forward, circle the arm all the way back to the hip, bring it back in, lower down. So it's like half of a breaststroke. Sweep the arm around, back to the forehead, lower down. Lift up, around, connect to the back of the shoulder. And as you do this, you're trying to stay as even as possible through the two sides. Internally, you'll obviously be working more on one side, depending on which hand your weight is in, but it should look relatively symmetrical. On your next one, you're going to try both arms. So you float up, reach forward, circle around, lift up a little higher, lower to the hover, reach forward, circle around. Again, depends on how heavy your weights are. If they're too heavy, just get rid of them and do your normal breaststroke. And 3, 2, and last one. Bring your hands to your side. Let your legs go a little bit wider apart and just rock your hips a little side to side. Let everything shake out a little bit. Like you have to literally shake a little bit to get your back to release. It's not controlled, floppy. And then keep the position, but turn your legs out and separate them wider to the corners of the mat. No weights in your hands. You're going to think of pulling yourself forward. Come up into a little bit of extension. You can go up as far as you feel comfortable. Lift through the spine, and then use your abdominals. Reach your head away from your feet as you lower down. Do that again. Pull up on the low abs. Feel like you're pressing the floor away, but you're mostly lifting from your spine. and lengthening back down. One more time, the arms start in that W position. You start to lift up, nice Bobby. Open the front of the collarbones and then lower all the way back down. Roll onto your side. Straighten both legs out underneath you and bring your elbow to your side. So rotator cuff, we're working on just light resistance, so internal and external rotation of that top arm. As your arm is moving, it should feel like you're working the back of the shoulder. So if you let your shoulder just fall forward, you're not going to be working the back of it in the way that I'd like. So set your scapula on the back of your rib cage and then rotate the arm. And if you can, add a lift and a lower of the leg, reach out and connect these two movements together. Trying to feel, yeah, if you can, keep your elbow from dropping down and kind of tucking in behind your ribs. It's floating it at the side, almost like you're holding a newspaper there, but you're not clutching it for dear life. Yeah, exactly. Good. And two more. If you don't feel the back of your shoulder blade area working, rotator cuff, then I'd say might need a little heavier weight, like 3 pounds, 2 to 3 pounds, somewhere in that range. Straighten your arm down by your side, reach your palm to face forward, take your arm overhead, bend your elbow in, extend your elbow, reach your arm overhead, bend your elbow in, extend. So as you do this a few times, start to float the top leg off the bottom leg, hold it in the air so it's a little bit harder to balance. Reach overhead, pull the elbow in, reach out. Most of you have small enough weights that if this weren't heavy enough, you could just hold on to both of them if you wanted. Reach out, bend in, and reach overhead, bend in, and two more, reach overhead, bend in, try to make the bottom leg parallel, so if it turns out it's too easy to balance. And then you're gonna stop when your arm is straight up to the ceiling. Reach that arm straight up, and then small circles, circle, circle. Good. And reverse the circles. Again, trying to connect into the back of the shoulder blade, into your rotator cuff. And then hold the arm still, flex your foot, circle your leg. Keep the arm reaching so you're not letting the shoulder collapse. You're pushing the weight up into the ceiling. Circle the leg, circle the leg, circle the leg. And reverse. And then lower your leg down. You can lower your arm down. Bring your legs forward about 45 degrees for side kick. Lift the top leg up, 2 kicks forward, 1 sweep back. As you do this a few times, we're gonna hold the arm up. As your arm goes back, your palm is facing more up. As your arm goes forward, your palm is facing more down. Forward, forward, sweep back, and forward, forward, sweep back, and forward. More or less your torso and your upper body is still. Two more. And one last time. And then bring your legs back down. You can let go of the weight in front of you and just do spinal rotation. So reach the arm up to the ceiling, twist your torso open. If you want, extend that top leg towards straight so you get a little bit more opening through the hip. Take a couple breaths there. Inhale. Exhale, see if you can sink a little bit further into the rotation. And then use your abdominals to come all the way back to the start position, and then reach your legs back out to straight underneath you. Take the weight in your hand again, and lifting both legs and lifting your torso, and then lowering back down. And float your top hand off your leg as you come up. And side bend and lengthen down. And use the obliques to pull you up. And lift. One more time. You're going to stay up at the top, hold that position, and just do a little pulse of the legs. The arms still floating off the legs. The legs are pulsing up. Should feel like it intensifies the oblique work. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower all the way back down. And sit up. Switch your legs over to the other side. One long line. Stack your shoulders, your ribs, your hips, bottom leg parallel. And rotating your arm first. So elbow by your side, rotating up and then back down. And you add that to your point lift, flex lower. Trying to keep the elbow from collapsing into the side of the waist. Your elbow isn't moving back behind you. Your elbow stays where it is. So as you're moving, you're not moving the humerus, it's just rotating in the shoulder socket. If you've done reformer work, you've done this kneeling, sitting on the reformer, all different places. Yeah, nice. Should be starting to feel something through the back of the shoulder blade by now. And open, keep the openness across the front of the shoulder so you're not letting your shoulder roll forward and kind of sink. And last one here. And take your arm down by your side. Big reach overhead. Bend your elbow in and reach back down. And then you can hold the leg up. As you do this a few times, reach out and up, pull in and reach down and reach out and up. And kind of your breaststroke motion again through the arm. And reach out, bend in and lower. Try to make the bottom leg parallel. So it should feel like you're working here to hold the leg up and also to stay stable so that you're not tipping backwards on the hip. Your elbow is to the side, so your arm isn't in front of you. Your hand isn't in front of you. You have to imagine if you were laying on your stomach doing breaststroke that your arm couldn't go in front of you because the floor would be there. Some of you are doing a little bit more of a forward in front of you motion. Smooth it out so there's no choppy moments. Last 2. And then find your arm up to the ceiling. Small circles without anything wiggling around. Reaching into the ceiling. Trying to stabilize the whole time. And reverse it. Try to keep from wiggling around. Tight, quick circles. And then lower your arm down. Bring your legs forward about 45 degrees. Side kick, so 2 kicks forward. 1 sweep back, palm faces more up as the arm goes back. Down as the arm goes forward. And kick, kick, sweep back. And kick, kick, sweep back. And trying to keep the spine in neutral. Three more. Last one. And then you can set the weight down, bend your legs in front of you, go into spinal rotation, reach the arm up, rotate the torso open. If you extended the top leg on the other side, do it here as well. Take a few breaths. Sinking further into your rotation. And then on your next exhale, come all the way back to where you started from. Grab your weights, stretch your legs back out underneath you into parallel, and side bend to lift and lower, kind of floating up and floating down. Good. Think of your upper and your lower body coming up at the same time. It's all being drawn up from the waist, trying to not tip backwards as you do this. 2 more. The last one, you're going to stay up and hold and just do a little pulse of the legs. Pulse, pulse, trying to feel those obliques working to help you hold you up here. And 4, 3, 2, and 1, and lower all the way back down. And then from here, come onto your hands and knees. Hands under your shoulders, knees under your hips. You'll just need one weight if you're going to add the weight. And start with reaching one hand and the opposite leg out, and just lift the weight in the hand and tap down. Lift up and tap down. Good. And 2 more like this, super simple, swimming prep. Hold the arm and leg up, flex your foot, circle the leg. If you can coordinate circling the arm too, go for it. Keeping the shoulder away from the chin. Reverse the circles. And then you're going to reach that arm and leg out, bend your knee and your elbow in underneath you towards each other, and then reach back out to long. Bend in, reach out. Push the floor away with that standing arm. Bend in, reach out, bend in, reach, and 4, 3, 2, and last one. Reach the arm out, set the weight down, sit back to a little shell stretch, child's pose. And then come back, hands and knees, take the weight in the other hand, reach the arm and the leg out, lift up and tap down. Trying to stay neutral through the torso. Nice. So opposite arm and leg. Awesome, Soraya. Try to keep from sinking into your lower back as your arm lifts. So you're not trying to be an extension and sending your chest forward. You're trying to be in kind of a flat back, like a table surface. Two more. Hold the arm and the leg up, circle the leg. If you want to add circling the arm, go for it. And reverse, circle. And then bend your knee and your elbow in towards each other. Reach it back out long. Bend in, round your back like a cat. As you reach out, press the arm and leg away from each other. Try to stay as level as you can so you're not kind of tipping over to one side. 3 more. And last one. And setting that weight down. Sit back into a shell stretch, rounding your belly away from your thighs, stretching back through your lower back. And coming back to your hands and knees. I'll give you a few options for this, but come onto your hands and knees with your legs all the way together. Take the weight in one hand, reach your arm forward, and then all the way back towards the hip without leaning away from it, and then back overhead. Do that a couple times. If you want to add the opposite leg, either reaching out behind you and toe tucked under on the ground, or you can hover the leg up the whole time. Yeah, so it's like airplane on the long box on the reformer. Back to your hip and forward. 2 more to the hip and reach overhead and to your hip. Keep your arm back by your hip and tricep press, bend and straighten. Make sure your elbow isn't higher than your shoulder, that you're getting the shoulder to be more open. At any point, you can grab both weights if you need to make this heavy enough. Bend and press. 4, 3, 2, last one. Reach the arm down towards the floor. And you'll feel how your hand hits the floor. You have to lift up high enough that you're not going to hit the floor the whole time. Reach your arm overhead and then sweep it back. You can also take it a little bit away from the midline so you don't hit the floor so much. Reach back, sweep it forward. So this is like plow on the long box. 4, 3, wide across the collarbones. Last one. And then bring the weight back in. You can sit back if you need to, take a break for a second. And then let's do the second side. So options are knee staying down the whole time, one leg extending with your toes down, or the leg hovering. So reach the arm overhead, circle your arm back towards your hip, and then back overhead. Try not to lean away from it. Think of leaning almost towards it so that you're working as the arm goes out to the side to keep the alignment. Exactly. So as your arm goes out to the side, you're not shifting away from it. That's better. Should feel like the deltoids are working to hold the height of the arm the whole time. One more time. Once you get your arm back to your hips, keep it there. Bend and straighten your elbow and your tricep presses. Bend and press. Elbow same height as shoulder, not above. Create some internal resistance. You're like pressing your elbow till it's straight versus it just being kind of you're bending and straightening. You're creating resistance so that you're pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling. Good. And then reach the arm down past the floor overhead. Press back towards the hips, down to the floor overhead. Think of widening across the collarbone. Keep pushing the floor away with that standing arm. Try not to let your head drop. Lift your heads, everybody. They're getting a little droopy there. There we go. And last 2. And last 1. Set the weight down. Sit back towards your heels. Take a stretch for a moment. And then you're going to come to laying on your back. 2 options, laying on your back and doing a hip lift. If you have weights and you held them at the front of the hip crease, it would make it a little heavier for your glutes. That's option A. If you want to come up into leg pull kind of prep position, you can have your fingertips either facing forward or facing side. Press your hips up and open across the front of the hip joint and then lower back down. So you're pushing the floor away, connecting into the shoulders. Your eyes will still be gazing forward and then lower back down. Yeah. Press up and back down. Yeah. Awesome. Good, Gloria. If you are doing the second version where you're lifting your hips off the ground and your weight is on your arms, you can lift one leg and set it back down and kind of test your balance. Try to keep pushing the hips open and up. And last one. And then set your hips back down. If you can come to this kind of crab walk position, this would be ideal. Otherwise, you'll have to keep doing hip lifts. You're gonna float your butt as low as possible off the ground and try to do a tricep dip. The further your feet get away from you and towards straight, the heavier your body is, so the harder this will be. You decide. So bend your elbows, straighten your elbow. Bend and straighten. You're in as neutral of a position as you can manage, but it won't be totally neutral. Make sure your fingers aren't facing back. They can face side, they can face forward, but not back. I just don't think it's good for your shoulders. It puts you in a weird alignment. Yeah. Better. And 2. And last one. And then just set your butt down, set your feet down, reach your arms forward, and go into a half roll back, rounding back, and scooping back forward. You've got your weight nearby. You only need one. Round back, scoop forward, switch it to the other hand. Round back, pull forward, switch it to the other hand. Round back, go forward, and back. And then if you'd like to add to that, as you round back, open the arm out to the side and still half roll back. And you're trying to not let your body shift away from the weight as it opens. So you stay in the center of all of this. Stay in the center as the arm opens. Good. You're gonna find a half roll back that you can hold and stay there. Put the weight in one hand, open and close the arm. 4, 3. Try not to shift around. 2, and 1. Come back forward over your legs. Round back again, hold the position, open the arm. 4, it's the second arm. 3, the other one is reaching forward. 2, and last one. Come back forward. This time you're gonna allow rotation. So your arm's gonna open and you're gonna turn and look towards it. Rotate through the rib cage. 2, and 3, and 4. And then you come back forward into the center. And last set here, rotate the torso. And 2, and 3, and 4. Put the weight back in one hand, do a full roll down, reach the arms overhead, circle the arms around to the side and roll all the way back up. It should feel like having the weight out to the side changes your symmetry and makes it a little bit more oblique work. So you're passing it from one arm to the other as you continue. Twice more, rounding back. Try to figure out the moment that it's hardest for you to open your arm out to the side and do it at that moment instead of making it easier for yourself. Once you get all the way back up, you can set the weight down, grab the back of the knees, round to the back of the sits bones, and then lift one leg up to tabletop and then the other. Hazel, you're gonna get squished. And then you guys are gonna roll back and kick your legs towards straight as you roll back. Hazel, sorry. Thank you. So take your legs apart like open leg rocker and find your balance at the top like teaser. Round your back, flex the feet and scoop and come back up. If you want to do full open leg rocker, you're welcome to do that as well. Deepening the abdominals and coming up, finding your balance. If you want it to be even harder, hold the toes. You'll feel you have to really control your weight as you're rolling. Good. Rolling back and coming back up however you can. Find your balance at the top in your teaser, spine, eyes looking up. Good, and then super slow-mo, roll down onto your back. Slow, 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 slow. Bring the legs together, go into single leg stretch. One leg reaches out, and you switch, and you switch. You want this to be harder, hands behind the head. And 8, 7, 3, 2, and last one. Bring the legs back in, set your head down, little circle of your legs around. Set your feet down. You can totally do this with your weights if you've got strong abs and you want to push your abdominal strength a little bit more. Bring your hands behind your head with or without 1 or 2 weights. Flex your upper body up and rotate your upper body towards one side. Center back off, go towards the other side. If you want to do this with the legs in tabletop, you may, or you can add your single leg. Stretch this, you take out the tabletop in the middle. Slide rib towards opposite hip. It's totally valid to keep the feet down and just focus on your form. This is one because our obliques, the fibers of those muscles run on diagonals obliquely. It's easy to have a lot of asymmetry in this area of our body. So trying to find that crisscross pattern, rib to opposite hip. One more each way. And then lower back down, hug your legs into your chest, give yourself a little rock from side to side. And then you're gonna come over onto your forearms. Sorry, no, I lied. Onto your stomach, all the way onto your stomach. So you guys will be better at this than me, but you're gonna put your hands near your sides, elbows are pointed up, toes are tucked under. I don't want you to lift your butt up off the floor. What I want you to do is push into your hands and feel like you're trying to lift your chest and your belly off the floor first. And then you can hover the legs and the thighs in a plank position, hovering, and then release back down. So think chest and belly first. Hold on a second. I realized I said that, and then what I got was this. You're staying in neutral. When I say chest and belly, I mean you have to stay in one plank position and hover your chest and your belly. You're not going into extension. Bring your hands back towards your sides more, Ginge. Yeah, kind of grasshopper position. Think of lifting your belly away. Exactly, so you're pressing the floor. Even if you can't literally lift your body parts off the floor, you should still feel like your arms are working and you're working your abs to try. And release one more time. Float wide across the collarbone. Think belly button. That's good, Alva, but think of belly button in the front of your thighs, your hips too. Hover the front of your thighs off, not just your chest. Should be like all arm work. And then come up onto your forearms. Once you get on your forearms, push down into the arms. You can be in a little bit of extension like a sphinx. And then I want you to scoop your belly button away from the floor like you're trying to round your back up into the ceiling and use your abs to try to lift your belly away from the ceiling. Away from the floor, and then roll back into that extension. So you're pushing through the arms, you're rounding, rounding, rounding. Should feel super hard. You should hear that in my voice. Natalia, make sure you don't just lift your butt. but try to think of rounding your back so much that you put most of the weight into the abdominals and a little bit into the knees. Let me see one more time. Round your back, pull your belly, your pubic bones pushing forward. It should feel like one of the harder abdominal exercises I've had you ever do. If it doesn't, then you're just lifting your butts, which is smart, but not what I want. And then return back down. Good. Come onto your knees and your forearms. Step one leg back into a plank and then the other leg back. Find a forearm plank here as long as you can. When you need to set your hips down, bring your knee underneath you so you're not going into a kind of splat position. Push one leg out, find your plank, push yourself up into your plank. And then when you need, set the knees down. One more time. Try not to just collapse. Push the floor away, float. And then set the knees back down. Leave your arms approximately in the same position and bring your knees more underneath you so your butt is over your knees. Yeah, push into your hands to straighten your elbows and bend your elbows. So you're pushing through your arms. So then if you want this to be harder, you just move yourself into a little more open position. So your knees are further from your hands and your elbows, your triceps are working as you lower and lift. So there's a way you can do this by just kind of shifting your weight and coming up and shifting your weight and going down. The idea would be that you'd be using your body weight to keep your body in the same position and make your triceps and your shoulders have to lift the weight versus shifting. If it doesn't feel like anything, tell me or wave your hands and I'll see what I can say to change it for you. Yeah. Some of you might be strong enough to do this in a full plank. You're welcome to do that. I'm not there yet. Yeah. One more time. And then coming back down. Turn to face the side. Forearm is still down. Press yourself up into a side plank on your knees, or you can stretch your legs out. I don't care today which foot is forward, which is back, or if both legs are stacked on top of each other, you decide. Doesn't matter because we're not going to add to this. You're just trying to find your side plank. You can do whatever you want with this other arm and set your hips back down. One more time. Press yourself up into your side plank or your kneeling side plank and hold, hold, hold. Connect into the shoulder. Feel like you're pushing the floor away and then lower the hips back down. Swing your legs over to the other side and pushing the floor away. Come up into your side plank. Holding yourself up, you can straighten your legs and setting your hips back down. And again, press yourself up, find that side arm plank. And then setting your hips back down, turn back to face the mat. And just sit back towards your heels, push into your hands and round your belly off of your thighs. So you're in a pretty lifted position, trying to scoop out the abdomen and stretch the lower back open. And then you're gonna sit up on your knees, take your arms overhead, just grab a hold of one wrist. You don't have to turn, I just am so you can see me. And side bend a little bit, pull yourself over to one side, then switch which wrist you're pulling on, little side bend the other way. If this isn't comfortable, of course you can sit down or stand up, whatever you need to do. Little stretch and up and over, one more each way. Up and over and come back to the center. Just lower your arms down, lift your shoulders up towards your ears. And then exhale, let your shoulders soften down. Feel like the neck is growing long like a turtle. One more time. Inhale your shoulders up. And your head grows long as your shoulders relax down. Awesome. Good job.